Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Daily English Lab podcast. Stop trying so hard. That's right, you heard me correctly. The reason you're still struggling with English after years of studying isn't because you're not working hard enough. It's because you're working too hard in the wrong way. And today, I'm going to show you how to learn English effortlessly. In the next hour, you're going to discover the secret that native speakers use naturally, but nobody ever teaches. It's called effortless learning, and it's the exact opposite of everything you've been told about language learning. By the end of this lesson, you'll understand why trying less actually helps you learn more. And you'll have a complete system to make English feel natural instead of exhausting. This isn't just theory. This method has helped thousands of my students go from frustrated and burnt out to confident and fluent. I've been teaching English for over 15 years, and I've worked with students from 70 different countries. And I'll tell you something that most teachers won't admit. The traditional methods don't work for most people. Memorizing grammar rules, doing endless exercises, forcing yourself to study for hours, it's exhausting. And worse, it doesn't lead to fluency. But effortless learning, that changes everything. Before we start, if you're tired of struggling with English and you want a better way, hit that subscribe button right now. I post lessons like this every single week. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. All right, let's dive into the secret of effortless English learning. Here's a question for you. How did you learn your native language? Did you study grammar books? Did you memorize vocabulary lists? Did you do exercises and tests? No. You just listened, you absorbed, you played, you made mistakes, and somehow, without even trying, you became fluent. Now compare that to how you're learning English. You're studying, you're forcing, you're stressing, you're trying so hard that your brain is exhausted. And that's exactly the problem. I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, but I'm an adult now. I can't learn like a child anymore. And that's what everyone believes. That's what I believe too. But it's completely wrong. Let me tell you about my student Park. Park was from South Korea, and he had been studying English for 12 years. 12 years! He knew every grammar rule. He had a huge vocabulary. He could pass any test. But when he tried to have a conversation, he froze. His mind went blank. He couldn't speak naturally. Does this sound familiar? Comment below if you've ever felt this way. Park came to me completely frustrated. He said, "I've spent thousands of hours studying. I've tried everything. What's wrong with me?" And I told him something that shocked him. I said, "Nothing is wrong with you. Something is wrong with your method. You're trying too hard." Here's what I call the effort paradox. The harder you try to learn English, the harder it becomes. Let me explain why. When you're forcing yourself to study, your brain goes into stress mode. And when your brain is stressed, it can't absorb information naturally. It's like trying to catch water with a closed fist. The tighter you squeeze, the more water escapes. Think about it. When do you remember things best? When you're relaxed and having fun, right? When you're watching a movie you love, you remember the dialogue without trying. When you're playing a game, you learn the rules without studying. When you're talking with friends, you pick up new phrases naturally. That's effortless learning. But when you're sitting at a desk with a textbook, forcing yourself to memorize, stressing about making mistakes, your brain resists. It sees learning as pain instead of pleasure. And what does your brain do with pain? It avoids it. That's why you procrastinate. That's why you start and stop. That's why English feels like torture instead of joy. Not because you're lazy, not because you're bad at languages, but because you're using a method that fights against how your brain naturally works. Let me tell you something fascinating about your brain. You have two learning systems. System 1 is unconscious and effortless. System 2 is conscious and requires effort. When you learned your native language as a child, you used System 1. You absorbed the language unconsciously just by being exposed to it. But when you study English in school, you're forced to use System 2, conscious effort, memorization, analysis. And here's the problem. System 2 is slow, it's exhausting, and it doesn't lead to natural fluency. You can know all the grammar rules consciously, but still can't speak naturally, because speaking naturally requires System 1, the unconscious system. So here's the secret that most teachers don't understand. You need to activate System 1. You need to learn English the same way you learned your native language, through exposure, not effort, through absorption, not memorization, through natural input, not forced study. Does this mean you don't need to practice? No, you absolutely need practice, but it's a different kind of practice. It's relaxed practice. It's enjoyable practice. It's practice that doesn't feel like work. That's what I'm going to teach you today. Let me give you a perfect example. Think about music. Have you ever had a song stuck in your head? Of course you have. We all have. Now, did you try to memorize that song? Did you study the lyrics? Did you force yourself to remember it? No, you just heard it a few times and your brain absorbed it automatically, effortlessly. That's exactly how language learning should work. You hear English in a relaxed state. You enjoy it. You don't stress about understanding every word, and your brain absorbs it naturally. Over time, phrases get stuck in your head, just like songs, and suddenly you find yourself thinking in English without trying, speaking in English without translating, understanding English without analyzing. This happened to my student Maria. She stopped studying grammar and started watching English TV shows she actually enjoyed. Not educational shows, just regular shows. Comedy, drama, whatever she liked. She watched with subtitles at first, but she didn't pause to look up every word. She just relaxed and enjoyed the story. After 3 months, something amazing happened. She started dreaming in English. She started thinking in English when she was alone. Phrases from the shows would pop into her head naturally when she needed them. Her English improved more in 3 months of relaxed watching than in 3 years of intense studying. All right, let's pause for a second. So far, we've learned that trying too hard actually makes English harder. We've learned about the effort paradox and the two learning systems. We've seen that your brain absorbs language naturally when you're relaxed, just like it did with your native language. That's the foundation. But now, I need to tell you the 3 principles of effortless learning. These 3 principles will completely transform how you approach English. And here's what I haven't told you yet. There's one specific type of content that activates effortless learning better than anything else. Most students have never even heard of it. I'm going to reveal what it is in just a few minutes. Before we get to the 3 principles, I need to address the question that everyone asks. They ask, How many hours per day should I study English? But that's the wrong question. That's the effort-based question. The right question is, how can I surround myself with English in a way that feels natural and enjoyable? See the difference? One question leads to exhaustion and burnout. The other question leads to effortless improvement. One is about forcing. The other is about flowing. And flow is where the magic happens. When you're in a state of flow, time disappears. You're fully engaged, but completely relaxed. That's when your brain absorbs the most. So stop asking how long you should study. Start asking how you can make English a natural part of your daily life. And that's exactly what the 3 principles will teach you. All right, here we go. The 3 principles of effortless learning. These are the principles I teach all my private students, and they're the foundation of everything that works in language learning. Once you understand these 3 principles, everything else falls into place. You'll know exactly what to do, and more importantly, you'll know what to stop doing. Principle number 1, comprehensible input. Now, I know that sounds academic and boring, but stay with me, because this is the most important principle of all. Comprehensible input means you're listening to or reading English that you can mostly understand, but not completely. Maybe you understand 70 to 80%, the other 20 to 30% is new. Why is this the magic zone? Because if you understand 100%, you're not learning anything new. It's too easy. But if you understand less than 50%, you get frustrated and your brain shuts down. It's too hard. But when you're in that 70 to 80% zone, your brain is engaged but not stressed. You can follow the story or the conversation, but you're also picking up new words and phrases naturally from context. And when you learn a word this way, in a natural context, you never forget it because your brain connected it to a story, a feeling, a situation, not just a definition. Now compare that to looking up crash in a dictionary. The dictionary gives you 10 different meanings. Which one is correct? You're not sure. You try to memorize it, but tomorrow you've forgotten. No context, no connection, no story. That's why dictionary memorization doesn't work. So, here's what I want you to do. Find English content that's at your level. Not too easy, not too hard. How do you know it's right? You can follow the main idea without translating, but there are some words and phrases you don't know yet. That's the sweet spot. That's comprehensible input. Let me test this with you right now. I'm going to say a sentence, and I want you to see if you can guess the meaning of the word from context. Ready? After the big argument, there was an awkward silence in the room. Nobody knew what to say. Did you understand that? If you didn't know the word awkward, could you guess it means uncomfortable or strange? That's comprehensible input in action. You just learned or reinforced a word effortlessly without a dictionary, just from context. Comment below and tell me what's one word you learned naturally from context without studying it. I want to hear your stories. Principle number 2, repetition without boredom. Now, you've probably heard that repetition is important for learning. That's true, but here's what nobody tells you. Boring repetition doesn't work. Your brain needs repetition, but it needs interesting repetition. Think about your favorite song again. You've probably heard it 50 times, but you don't get bored because you enjoy it. Every time you hear it, you notice something new, maybe a different instrument, maybe a clever lyric you missed before. That's interesting repetition. The same thing works with English.
You need to hear the same English multiple times, but not the same boring textbook dialogue. You need to hear interesting English multiple times. Content you actually care about. Content that's entertaining or useful or fascinating to you. Here's what I recommend to all my students. Find one piece of English content that you really like. Could be a 5-minute video, could be a podcast episode, could be a scene from a movie. Something you genuinely enjoy, and listen to it multiple times over 1 week. At least 5 times, maybe 10 times. The first time, you'll catch the main idea. The second time, you'll understand more details. The third time, you'll start noticing phrases and expressions. The fourth time, you'll be able to anticipate what comes next. And by the 5th time, you'll have absorbed dozens of phrases into your unconscious mind without even trying.
But here's the key. It has to be content you like. Because if you're bored, your brain doesn't absorb. Boredom is the enemy of learning. Enjoyment is the friend of learning. So don't force yourself to listen to boring educational content just because it's good for learning. Find content that makes you happy, excited, curious, or entertained. That's what works. I had a student named Ahmed who loved soccer. He wasn't very interested in English. He found it boring. So I told him, stop studying English. Start watching English soccer commentary instead. He looked at me like I was crazy, but he tried it. Ahmed started watching English Premier League matches with English commentary. At first, he didn't understand much, maybe 40%, but he loved soccer, so he kept watching. After a month, he was understanding 60%. After 3 months, 80%. He wasn't trying to learn English, he was just enjoying his favorite sport. But here's what happened. All those soccer phrases started appearing in his everyday English. It's a close call. Give it your best shot. Level the playing field. These are common English idioms that Ahmed learned effortlessly because he heard them repeatedly in a context he enjoyed. 6 months later, Ahmed's English improved so much that he got promoted at work. Why? Because his job required English communication with international clients. And suddenly, Ahmed could speak English naturally and confidently, all because he stopped studying and started enjoying. Principle number 3, stress-free exposure. This is the principle that brings everything together. Your brain absorbs language best when you're relaxed, not stressed, not anxious, not worried about making mistakes. Relaxed. Think about when you're learning something in your native language. Are you stressed? No! You're just absorbing information naturally. The same thing needs to happen with English. You need stress-free exposure. Lots of it. Every single day. So here's what stress-free exposure looks like. You're listening to English while you're doing something enjoyable or relaxing. Maybe you're cooking dinner and listening to an English podcast. Maybe you're going for a walk and listening to an audiobook. Maybe you're lying in bed before sleep and watching an English video. Your focus is on the activity or the story, not on studying English. And that's exactly what makes it work. When you're relaxed, your unconscious mind is open. It's absorbing. It's making connections. But when you're stressed, sitting at a desk with a textbook, forcing yourself to memorize, your unconscious mind closes. It goes into survival mode. And in survival mode, you can't learn naturally. Here's a simple test. After you finish watching this video, notice how you feel. Do you feel exhausted? Or do you feel energized? If you feel exhausted, you're trying too hard. If you feel energized, you're learning effortlessly. That's the difference. So stop forcing yourself to study when you're tired. Stop stressing about understanding every single word.
Stop being afraid of making mistakes. Instead, surround yourself with English in relaxed, enjoyable ways. Listen while you exercise. Watch while you eat. Read while you commute. Make English a natural part of your life, not a separate study session. That's Principle 3, stress-free exposure. Combined with comprehensible input and repetition without boredom, these 3 principles create effortless learning. All right, remember earlier when I said there's one specific type of content that activates effortless learning better than anything else? Now I'm going to reveal what it is, and I guarantee this is going to change how you practice English forever. But before I tell you, let me ask you this. What type of content do most English students use? Textbooks, grammar exercises, vocabulary lists, news articles, right? And how do you feel when you're using that content? Probably bored, right? Maybe stressed. Definitely not excited. Now I'm going to tell you about a different type of content. Content that's so engaging, you forget you're learning English. Content that makes time fly. Content that you actually look forward to. Are you ready? Stories. That's the magic content type. Stories. Not grammar lessons, not vocabulary lists. Stories. Why? Because stories are how humans have learned for thousands of years. Before schools existed, before textbooks existed, how did people pass on knowledge? Through stories. Stories activate your entire brain. When you hear a story, you're not just processing words. You're visualizing the scene. You're feeling the emotions. You're predicting what happens next. Your brain is completely engaged, but you're not stressed. You're enjoying the journey. And here's the beautiful part. When you learn English through stories, you're not just learning words. You're learning how to use those words in real situations. You're learning the emotions behind the words. You're learning the culture. You're learning how native speakers actually think and communicate. Compare these 2 sentences. Sentence 1. Angry means feeling mad or upset. That's a definition. You might memorize it, but you don't really feel it. Now, sentence 2. When Maria discovered that her best friend had lied to her, she felt so angry that she couldn't even speak. Her hands were shaking. Do you feel the difference? The second one is part of a story. You can visualize it. You can feel Maria's anger. You'll remember that word angry forever because it's connected to an emotion and a situation. That's the power of stories. They make language memorable without effort. They make learning enjoyable instead of painful. They activate effortless learning better than any other content type. So, what kind of stories should you listen to? There are many options, and I'm going to give you several. Choose the ones that interest you most. Remember, enjoyment is key. Option 1, simple story podcasts. These are podcasts designed for English learners, but they tell actual stories, not boring grammar lessons, real stories about people, adventures, experiences. They use simple language, but the stories are engaging. This is perfect for beginners and intermediate students. Option 2, audiobooks. If you're at a B1 level or higher, you can start listening to real audiobooks. Choose books that are slightly below your reading level. Young adult books are perfect because they use clear language but tell compelling stories. Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, Wonder. These books are page-turners. You'll be so interested in what happens next that you'll forget you're learning English.
Option 3, story-based YouTube channels. There are channels that tell true stories from history, science, mysteries, adventures. The narrators speak clearly, the stories are fascinating, and you're learning English without even realizing it. Find a few channels you love and watch regularly. Option 4, TV series with simple language. Sitcoms are excellent for this. Shows like Friends or Modern Family use everyday English in funny situations. You get repetition because characters use the same phrases repeatedly. You get context because you can see what's happening. And you get enjoyment because these shows are entertaining. The key is to choose stories that match your interests. If you love romance, listen to romance stories. If you love mystery, choose mystery stories. If you love science, find science stories. Don't force yourself to listen to content just because someone said it's good for learning. Listen to content that makes you happy. Now, let me tell you exactly how to listen to stories for maximum effortless learning. This is important because most students listen the wrong way. Wrong way. Listening once, trying to understand every single word, pausing constantly to look up words, getting frustrated when you don't understand something, giving up. Right way. Listen to the same story multiple times over several days. First time, just enjoy the story. Don't worry about words you don't understand. Just follow the general plot. Second time, you'll naturally understand more. Third time, even more. By the fourth or fifth time, you'll understand almost everything, and dozens of phrases will have entered your unconscious mind. Here's the exact process I recommend. Day 1. Listen to a 10-minute story while you're doing something relaxing. Just enjoy it. Don't stress. Day 2. Listen to the same story again. This time, notice details you missed before. Day 3. Listen again. Start noticing specific phrases. Day 4. Listen one more time. Now you're starting to predict what comes next. Day 5. Listen a final time. At this point, many phrases should sound familiar and natural. After 5 days, move to a new story. But here's the important part. Come back to the first story a week later and listen one more time. This spaced repetition is powerful. It moved the language from short-term memory to long-term memory. And you're doing it all effortlessly just by listening to an interesting story multiple times. Now, let me warn you about the biggest mistake students make with stories. They choose stories that are too difficult. Remember Principle 1? Comprehensible input. The story needs to be at your level. If you're understanding less than 50%, the story is too hard. You'll get frustrated and quit. So, how do you know if a story is right for you? Here's the test. Listen to 5 minutes. If you can follow the main idea without subtitles or translation, but there are some words you don't know, perfect. That's your level. If you're completely lost, find something simpler. If you understand every single word easily, find something more challenging. A lot of students have ego about this. They think, I've been studying English for 5 years. I should be able to understand everything. But learning effortlessly means leaving your ego behind. It's better to listen to easy content that you enjoy and understand than to force yourself through difficult content that makes you feel stupid. I had a student who was advanced in grammar but weak in listening. She wanted to listen to CNN News because she thought that's what advanced students should do. But she understood maybe 30% and she hated every minute. I told her, find something you actually enjoy, even if it seems too easy. She started listening to a podcast about true crime stories told in simple English. She loved it. And within 3 months, her listening skills improved so much that she could understand CNN News. But she got there by starting with content she enjoyed, not content she thought she should listen to. All right, let's review what we've covered. We learned the 3 principles: comprehensible input, repetition without boredom, and stress-free exposure. We discovered that stories are the magic content type for effortless learning, and we learned exactly how to use stories effectively. But now I need to tell you about the schedule,
Because even though we're talking about effortless learning, you still need a system. The difference is, this system doesn't feel like work. It feels natural. And that's what I'm going to show you in the next section. How to create an effortless English environment in your daily life. This is where everything comes together. Here's a question. What language do you think in right now? Your native language, right? Why? Because you're surrounded by it. You hear it everywhere, on TV, on the radio, from people around you. You're not trying to think in your native language. It just happens automatically because of your environment. Now, what if you could create the same kind of environment for English? What if English was just always there in the background of your life, naturally and effortlessly? That's what I call an effortless English environment, and it's easier to create than you think. The key is to integrate English into activities you're already doing, not to add extra study time to your busy schedule. You're already cooking, exercising, commuting, relaxing. We're just going to add English to those existing activities in a way that feels natural. Let me show you exactly how to do this with a sample daily schedule. But remember, this is just an example. You're going to customize it based on your own life, your own interests, your own schedule. Morning. You wake up. Maybe you're still lying in bed for a few minutes checking your phone. Instead of scrolling through social media in your native language, spend 5 minutes watching English content. Could be a funny video, could be an inspiring message, could be a short story. Something that makes you feel good. 5 minutes. That's it. Then you get up and start your morning routine. Shower, get dressed, make breakfast. While you're doing these things, play an English podcast or audiobook in the background. You don't need to focus intensely on it. Just let it play. Your unconscious mind is absorbing even when you're not actively listening. Maybe you're hearing a story about someone's travel adventure. Maybe it's a conversation between two friends. Whatever you chose. By the time you leave the house, you've already been exposed to 30 minutes of English, and it didn't feel like studying. It felt like part of your normal morning. That's effortless. One of my students, Lisa, does this every morning. She watches a 3-minute motivational video in English while still in bed. Then she listens to an English podcast while getting ready. She told me, I used to dread practicing English. Now it's just part of my morning, like brushing my teeth. I don't even think about it. It just happens.
Now let's talk about commute time. Whether you're driving, taking the bus, or walking, this is perfect time for English. Put in your earphones and listen to English. Could be the same audiobook you started in the morning. Could be a new podcast episode. Could be music in English where you can understand the lyrics. The key is to make this automatic. Every time you start your commute, English goes on. It becomes a habit. You don't decide whether to do it or not. You just do it. It's part of the routine. And here's a bonus tip. If you're driving, try shadowing. Shadowing means you repeat what you hear immediately, like an echo. The podcast says, "Today is a beautiful day," and you immediately repeat, "Today is a beautiful day." This is incredibly powerful for improving your speaking, and you can do it while driving. Nobody's listening, nobody's judging. You're just practicing naturally. During lunch or break time at work, you're probably scrolling through your phone anyway, right? Instead of reading content in your native language, read something in English. Could be an interesting article. Could be an English meme that makes you laugh. Could be a short English story, 5 to 10 minutes. Or, if you prefer listening to reading, watch a short English video while you eat. Something entertaining, something you actually want to watch. Remember, this shouldn't feel like work. It should feel like entertainment that happens to be in English.
I have a student who watches cooking videos in English during lunch. She loves cooking, and she's learning both cooking skills and English at the same time. Two birds with one stone. And she looks forward to lunch every day because she gets to watch her favorite chefs. Evening time. This is when most people relax, watch TV, scroll through social media, play games, whatever. Here's what I want you to do. Replace just some of your native language entertainment with English entertainment. Not all of it, just some of it. Maybe instead of watching a show in your native language tonight, watch one episode of an English show with subtitles. Choose something you're genuinely interested in. Comedy if you like comedy, drama if you like drama. Don't watch educational content unless you actually find it interesting. The goal is enjoyment. Or maybe you like reading before bed. Read a few pages of an English book. Not a textbook, a real book. A novel, a biography, a self-help book, whatever genre you enjoy. Read at your level. If it's too difficult, find something simpler. Reading should be relaxing, not stressful. One of my students replaced his evening social media scrolling with reading English short stories on his phone. Same device, same relaxed position on the couch, just English instead of his native language. After 6 months, he had read over 50 short stories, and his English improved dramatically. He didn't study, he just read for enjoyment. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds like English all day long. I don't have time for this. But here's the thing. You're not adding extra time. You're just replacing some of your existing activities with English versions. You're already listening to something during your commute. Why not make it English? You're already watching TV in the evening. Why not make some of it English? And you don't have to do this every single day perfectly. Life happens. Some days you'll do more. Some days you'll do less. That's okay. The goal is to make English a natural part of your environment, not to create a rigid study schedule that stresses you out. I recommend this balance. Try to have English in your life at least 5 days per week. On those 5 days, aim for at least 30 minutes of passive exposure, where English is just playing in the background while you're doing other things. Plus, maybe 15 minutes of more active engagement, where you're actually focused on the content. That's 45 minutes total, but it's spread throughout your day in natural ways. 2 days per week, give yourself a complete break if you want, or continue naturally if you're enjoying it. Remember, we're trying to make this effortless, not exhausting. All right, let's get real for a moment. I've made effortless learning sound pretty easy, right? And it is easier than traditional studying. But that doesn't mean you'll never feel frustrated. You will. There will be days when you don't understand something and it bothers you. There will be times when you feel like you're not improving fast enough. That's normal. That's part of the journey. The difference between students who succeed and students who quit is how they handle these frustrating moments. Students who quit think, I'm not good at English, I should just give up. Students who succeed think, this is temporary, I'm learning, I'll get through this. It's all about mindset. So, let me give you some tools to handle frustration when it comes up. Because it will come up, and I want you to be prepared. When you're frustrated, you're usually focusing on one specific thing you don't understand. One grammar rule, one pronunciation, one conversation that didn't go well.
You're zoomed in on that one problem and it feels huge. Tool number 1 is to zoom out. Look at the bigger picture. Ask yourself, can I understand more English today than I could 6 months ago? The answer is probably yes, even if it doesn't feel like it. Even if you still make mistakes, you're better than you were. I had a student who got frustrated because she still couldn't understand fast native speakers after 3 months of practice. She felt like a failure. I asked her, "Can you understand me?" She said yes. "Could you understand me 3 months ago?" She thought about it. "Actually, no. You were speaking too fast for me back then." See, she was improving. She just couldn't see it because she was zoomed in on what she couldn't do instead of what she could do. So when you're frustrated, zoom out. Celebrate how far you've come, not just how far you still have to go. A lot of frustration comes from putting too much pressure on yourself. You think, I have to be fluent next month, or I need to speak perfectly in this conversation, or I can't make any mistakes. That pressure creates stress, and stress blocks learning. Tool number 2 is to lower the stakes. Remind yourself that language learning is a long journey. You don't have to be perfect today. You don't even have to be perfect next year. You just have to be slightly better than yesterday. That's it. Just 1% better. And mistakes? Mistakes are not failures. Mistakes are data. Every mistake teaches you something. Native speakers make mistakes too. Making mistakes means you're actually using the language, which is the only way to improve.